Hello, Rose Davidson here, and welcome to the podcast. This episode originally aired as a video on my YouTube channel at youtube.com/doesbiz, Mums in Business with Rose Davidson.
Good morning, Chris Crowe, and welcome. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
A little bit about your business. It's the place for professional and Australian virtual assistants, and your business name is Australian Virtual Assistant Centre of Excellence. This is a place for them to gain resources, skills, knowledge and connections they may need to help and run the best business as a virtual assistant. And it's also a place for business owners to go to source business virtual assistants. So can you tell me a little bit more about the business?
Well, I started in 2015. I have a training and coaching background from my corporate life many years ago, and I started my own virtual assistant business in 2010, and I found that I had a lot of people coming to me and saying, how do you do it? How have you been so successful? How do I get started? So I decided to incorporate my training and coaching background and use my skills there and get the startup VA workshop up and running, and from there mentoring and coaching, and it kind of just grew from there. And it's still growing because really it's only a baby business, the AVACOE, which is the shortened version of the Virtual Assistant Centre of Excellence, because that's quite a mouthful. So the AVACOE is only a baby, but there's actually years and years of experience behind that, because my husband and I have run our own business since 1993, which is quite successful. We are debt-free. We were debt-free within 12 years, so I know how to make a business profitable, and I know what it takes to run a virtual assistant business from having done my own for several years before starting the AVACOE, and also, so I guess, and then bringing in that training and coaching background as well. So
wow, yeah, that's really great. Yeah. So what is the difference between a virtual assistant and an online business manager?
So a virtual assistant generally looks after their clients themselves. An online business manager often has a team around them. So they do the management part of the business, and the virtual assistant sort of does the grunt work, I guess. So it's kind of like having on a building site where you'd have an overseer and then you'd have all the tradies. So I think that's my description of it. Some people have slightly different descriptions, but that's the thing I sort of like to describe it as, I guess.
Yeah, it pretty much puts it in a nutshell, I guess. It explains it really well, I think, rather than all the other jargon that goes with it.
That's me. I like to speak simple, just very simple, keep it simple, because you don't want to confuse people, and really there's a lot of jargon out there, and some of it's necessary, but some of it's like just a bit confusing, really.
Yes, I find that at times as well. So a question, how do you prioritise your time and find your equilibrium between your work and your life?
To be honest, that's one of the biggest challenges that can come from working from home for yourself, because it's too tempting to pop in and just check that one, check if that little email's come in, check if that piece of work's come in, and before you know it, 2 hours later you're madly typing away and you're a bit stuck. So I think it's really important to plan. Planning is key. I think you have to plan your day, and you have to plan your fun as well as your work. So planning is key to that. I think it's just so important. I think too, for me, my training and coaching was in time management. So that sort of, and planning your day is part of time management, and that sort of is ingrained in me because I did it for so many years, helping other people to, manage their time. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. So how do you find the time for you? Like when is that time for you? How do you book that in, based around your busy lifestyle?
I have a very busy lifestyle. I have 4 children. They're all adults now, which makes it a lot easier. But when I started my VA business, they were all still at school, all 4 of them. And so with them, it's kind of easy because they had commitments with sport and after school, things like that. I do find it hard sometimes to put time in for me, but you just have to do it. You just have to do it. If it means getting up half an hour earlier and having a cup of tea and reading a book, or reading the paper, or doing an exercise, go for a walk, or go to the gym or something, you just have to do it. And it's so important to do those things, because I did get burnt out actually earlier this year, to be honest. I've had two sick children, very, very, as in hospital kind of life-threatening sicknesses, and you give your all to them, and so it can be a bit hard to find the time for yourself, but it's so important to just make the time. You have to be selfish, otherwise if you fall apart, your business is going to fall apart, you're going to let clients down, your family's going to, fall apart without you, and you just have to do it. So
yeah, I agree that the me time is very, very important for especially for any woman in business, but especially startups, which that they will find that if they've got a young baby at home, and then they're trying to struggle between the baby and the work and the other family commitments. Yeah, the me time virtually is important. They have to do that.
Yeah, I think for parents with little children, it's particularly hard. And I know when my kids were little as well, you'd put them down for sleep, and then you'd suddenly be madly trying to do everything while they're asleep, when what you probably should do is sit down as well yourself. But it's a real juggling act, and a lot of people get it right. But if you've got a tiny baby and you're running a business and you want to do it full time, it might be a good idea to use some childcare or some help, even if it's just a couple of hours. Or you can do, because being virtual, this is the beauty of being virtual as well. So you can flip it on its head, and you can actually just have downtime with your little person or people, play with them, build Lego, make Play-Doh, make a mess, and then do some work at night. Or if you're lucky enough to have a partner or somebody that can come and help you with them later in the afternoons, or early, or get up early and do that work, or find a couple of hours to get the work done, and then have that parenting time as your fun time, which is my way of looking at parenting, because I loved being a mum.
Yeah.
4 of the little buggers. And yeah, I just loved it. And so I loved spending time with them. That was kind of really relaxing for me.
Good. Yeah, no, that's really great advice too, I think. Okay, so sometimes business is not always kind and can give you lemons. How do you, or did you, deal with that?
Oh, I've had tons of lemons, don't you worry about that. So I've made lots of mistakes and learned from that. And I think, and I've had some pretty crappy clients, and I've learned from that. I've also, made mistakes with clients as well, and I've learned from that. So I think when life throws you lemons, make lemonade is my sort of, not mine, obviously. If I have tidying up, how am I going to fix it? Apology and a bit of a grovel helps, depending on how big it is. But I mean, obviously you learn from each time you do something stupid, which is my incredible for myself, or wrong, and you don't do it again. You learn.
Yeah, you try not to anyway.
You try not to, absolutely, and so that's what I mean by about making lemonade. So every single solitary thing that comes along is a challenge. My son, alluded to him being unwell. So he actually had a bone tumour, and I'll never forget the day it was diagnosed. It was like, a real sucker punch. It was like, oh,
I can imagine. That would be awful.
Pretty horrific. But my first word after, well, I can't swear, but it was, and I did drop the F-bomb. I was no, it was the other one. And then I looked at the doctor and I just said, what happens next? That was my first reaction, and that's what I do with business as well. Okay, something's gone wrong. What do we do to fix it? Yeah. What happens next? I'm pleased to report he's fine and back playing cricket and all that. But that's how I approach everything in life, and I think that's a really good way to approach business as well. Because yes, disasters happen. I mean, I've done some royal stuff ups, and but you just go, right, how do I fix it? And then you move forward with that. And sometimes you can't fix it, and that's okay too, you just let that experience pass you by and
just learn from that. And don't let it get to you, and don't take it to heart so much, I guess.
Oh, never take it personally. Never, ever. It's very rare that anyone attacks you personally, and people say things that might hurt your feelings, but often they don't mean to hurt your feelings, or they've just said something off the top of their head and they've forgotten it, or you might dwell on it, and that's soul destroying, and don't do that to yourself, because it's not worth it. You know, you might make a mistake, and that's okay. That's okay. You learn from it, you move on, and you don't take anything personally, especially not in business, because business people are always, you know, sort of pretty much out for themselves, really. Even though you do things to help your clients, you still, at the end of the day, you want to help yourself with the money that comes in, or you know, the feeling of satisfaction that you get from helping people. And so you've just got to remember that it's not personal, it's business, and business can be brutal, because people will cut you off or whatever, just because it doesn't suit their business. And that's okay. That's fine. That's just move on to the next thing.
Okay. So how does someone gain access to the terrific resources and training that your business offers? Because I know I was a member of AVACOE for some time, and and I still have that training that I need to do, and I haven't done it yet. Yes, naughty me. You've slapped me on the hand so many times.
That's okay. No, that's okay.
But where did they go?
It's sitting there waiting for you. It's all, you have lifetime access, so whenever you're ready.
Yeah, so where did they go to gain access to those resources and the training? So I know that it's very good, and it's just huge.
Yeah, I find it answers most of the questions. So people just need to visit my website, my website at www.avacoe.com.au, and AVACOE is spelled AVACOE. So www.avacoe.com.au, and you'll see there's resources for VAs there, and there's now a free skills test that people can do if they want to. There's a whole bunch of free stuff on there. There's a free webinar that they can listen to, which gives a real basic start of some of the information, and then they can do the Startup VA workshop there as well, which is the one that you're signed up for, which talks about this bunch of units. It talks about how to set prices. It's really for startups, how to set prices, how to advertise or market, how to find your niche or work out a niche. And there's worksheets to go through it, and there's workbooks that people can print out and keep and write in and scribble all over, so they've got a resource there. And I think I've had a lot of good feedback from the workshop. It's sort of really helpful to finding clients and just setting up the structure and technology that you need and all sorts of things like that. So
I noticed from a lot of the free resources that I have downloaded from you that it doesn't just apply to VAs. It apply to other type home businesses as well. It's, you know, you just take out the word virtual assistant and you put your own business in there, and it's really, really, really helpful. So,
yeah, thanks. That's good to hear. And that's the idea, you know. See, the thing is about being a virtual assistant is it is a business. You are running a business, so all those business rules do apply. You know, you have to pay tax at the end of the year, and you have to. It's a good idea to save. I have a separate bank account where I set aside money so I don't have to scramble for taxes at the end of the year. And, you know, you have to market, and you have to have a target market, excuse me, a target market, and a niche is really helpful, and all those sort of things that are helpful within other businesses totally apply, because a VA business is just a business at the end of the day.
Okay, so just finishing up for this morning, what advice do you have for starting a business, for getting the following, as in, you know, on your website or your Facebook page or whatever, and being a busy mum in business and finding that all-important equilibrium?
Yeah. So for starting a business, I guess, do my course, but you know, it's not a compulsory. You don't have to do it. But to start a business, you need an ABN, you need a business name, and I strongly suggest that, particularly for any business, to be a website up there. If And that really does go for almost any business these days, because the first thing I do if someone says, oh, have you heard of such and such, is I Google it, and I see what's out there. So that's the way of the world these days. Is being online is important. Getting a following. So what do you mean, as in on your Facebook page or on your...
Yeah, look, how do you promote yourself and, get the know, like, trust thing going?
Oh, yeah, know, like, trust, yep. So, well, one of the best ways I find, there's two best ways actually. The first best way is an online best way, and that is to join all those Facebook business groups. There's hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of them out there. Find out what are the good ones, find out the big ones, and answer people's questions. So don't go in there and say, oh, hi, I'm Chris from the AVACOE, buy my stuff. Go in there and you see people say, oh, what do I look for from my perspective? What would I look for with a VA? And I would say, this and this. I don't have to put any links, because if they're interested enough, they'll click on my, little face and they'll see my business links there, and then they can find me from there. So if you do it regularly, you soon become the go-to girl, for that kind of information. Ask Chris Crowe, she'll know. Ask Rosalie, she'll know. So it's sort of really important to be quite active in answering questions, and also from time to time asking a general question. And it has to be a question that's appealing, that people want to answer. So that's one way. The other way is to get out there in person and go to networking events. So person-to-person, face-to-face networking events. You can call your local council. Most local councils have a business development or economic development unit, and they will often have a list of different networking events that they either run themselves or that they know about. And just Google networking and your suburb even, and different networking events will come up. And so if you're a bit nervous, start with a small one. There's some out there. There's one called Motivating Mum, which is just women, and it's kind of lots and lots of little small groups all around the sort of country actually. And there'll be one near you, and just go and learn how to network through those people, other people, because you'll see what they do, and how they sell themselves and that sort of thing. And the one thing I always say, which I learnt very early on about networking, is don't go there and just hand out your business cards. Go there and collect business cards, because by handing them out, that's great. Lots of people have your information, but by collecting them, you've got their information, and you can then ring them up and go and arrange to have a coffee or whatever it is. So there's there's tons of different networking events, but that's really important, and don't go expecting the first visit to get a client, because it might happen, but it's unlikely to happen because of exactly what you just said. You've got to build that trust and get to know people as well. So what else was it? Being a busy mum in business. Yep, well, that's pretty much what we were talking about before. Work around your kids if you've got kids at home. If they go for a nap, get stuff done that you can, or try and relax. But it's not realistic to do that. Relax when you've got them awake and being gorgeous. So all babies are gorgeous, even when they're throwing tantrums. They're funny. And, I used to take my kids it was great actually. I used to take my kids to netball training or footy or cricket or whatever they were playing at the time. And I think having a laptop is really a good idea. So I would take my laptop and I just work in the car or on the bench watching them train, and, or when they got a bit bigger, I would drop them at training, go to the local coffee shop, do 40 minutes, go back and pick them up from their training, and, you can get a lot done in 40 minutes. So that's one. There's a couple of little tricks, I guess, or work at night or early in the morning or whatever. And that all-important equilibrium in life, excuse me, is just make time for yourself. If you've got a gym nearby, utilise the creche and just have that hour. 5 hours a week, if you go 3 times a week, that's 3 hours a week. there's 168 hours in the week, which means you've got 165 other hours to either work or sleep or eat. So have that 3 hours in the week just for you, and it's so, so important to do that.
All right, Chris, thank you so much for that great advice, really, and thank you again for joining me, and you have a terrific day.
You too. Can I hear a tweety noise in the background?
Yeah, I've got 2 lorikeets outside.
I had a kookaburra sitting on the back fence the other day.
Oh, wow, I love them. They make so much noise, though.
Yeah, they do. Well, thank you for having me, and lovely speaking with you today, and all the best, and I look forward to seeing you complete my course.
Oh, yes, I'm sure I will. Right, thanks, Chris.
You're
Bye.
welcome. See ya.
Thank you for listening. I really do appreciate your time. I look forward to sharing the next episode with you very soon. Bye for now.